A lion is standing at the edge of a watering hole in the Serengeti. It's the kind of afternoon that bakes everything. The grass is pale gold, the air smells like dust and dried dung, and the heat is sitting on the landscape like something physical. Around the water, zebras drink nervously. A family of warthogs shuffles through the mud. A giraffe bends its impossible neck down to reach the surface. And then, from a dirt road about 40 meters away, a land cruiser full of tourists pulls up. Cameras come out. People lean out of windows. Someone laughs at something. The engine idles loudly. The humans are making noise, taking up space, doing everything that every other species on this planet has learned over millions of years to interpret as a signal to leave immediately. The lion glances over, makes brief eye contact with approximately 7 humans staring directly at it, and then looks away, returns to whatever it was doing, completely unbothered. This is usually the moment when someone in the vehicle whispers, with a mixture of wonder and mild offense, "It's not even afraid of us." And that observation, casual as it sounds, is pointing at something genuinely worth unpacking. Because the lion isn't afraid of those particular humans in that particular context, behind that particular vehicle in a national park where hunting hasn't occurred for decades. Change a single variable, remove the vehicle, add darkness, go back 200 years before the park existed, and that same lion's response to humans would be very different. The real question isn't why that specific lion ignored those specific tourists. The real question is much larger and far more interesting. Why, across the sweep of evolutionary history, do most large predators treat humans with a wariness, a deliberate avoidance, that is disproportionate to what our soft, slow, clawless, fangless bodies seem to justify? Why does something with the raw, physical capacity to kill us frequently choose not to bother? Start with the biology, because the baseline matters. A human being, assessed purely as a physical specimen, is not impressive prey, and not impressive competition. Average adult humans weigh between 60 and 80 kilograms. Running speed peaks around 28 kilometers per hour for a healthy adult, and that pace can be maintained for maybe 30 seconds before lactic acid begins its protest. We have no natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no armor, no horns, no meaningful fang structure. Our skin is thin enough that a moderately motivated house cat can draw blood. We cannot see well in the dark. Our hearing is mediocre by mammalian standards. Our sense of smell is so poor it barely deserves the name. Compare this to a leopard, 100 kilograms of compact muscle, retractable claws designed for gripping and tearing, canine teeth capable of piercing through a skull, acceleration that reaches 60 kilometers per hour in short bursts, and the ability to haul a prey animal heavier than itself up a vertical tree. By every physical metric, a leopard should regard a lone human approximately the way a wolf regards a rabbit. Concerning enough to require some effort, but not a serious existential consideration. And yet leopards avoid humans. Not always, not universally, but as a behavioral tendency, leopards in areas with human presence treat humans with a caution that scales with the intensity of human activity in the area. Populations of leopards that have never been hunted still exhibit avoidance behaviors toward humans that are far in excess of what the physical threat profile warrants. This pattern, predators giving humans more respect than our bodies seem to deserve, shows up across species, across continents, across ecological contexts. It requires an explanation that goes beyond the immediate physical reality. The most important piece of the explanation is also the most ancient. Fear of humans is, for many large predators, a learned cultural inheritance that has been accumulating for hundreds of thousands of years. Humans have been killing large predators for a very long time. Not with claws or speed or venom, but with tools, with cooperative coordination, and with a persistent, patient, planning-capable intelligence that turns the straightforward calculus of predator-prey interaction into something far more complicated. The earliest stone tools date to roughly 3.3 million years ago. The earliest evidence of hunting with projectile weapons, spears, in various forms, dates back at least 400,000 years and possibly further. Coordinated group hunting, in which multiple humans cooperate to take down prey far larger than any individual could manage alone, appears to be ancient behavior, present in populations long before anatomically modern humans. What this means for large predators is that encounters with humans have been, for an enormous span of time, statistically dangerous. A lion that pressed an encounter with a group of armed, coordinated hominins risked a spear through the ribcage, or a thrown rock that connected with something critical, or the coordinated defense of a group that refused to scatter. Over hundreds of thousands of years, lions that were incautious around humans tended to end up dead. Lions that maintained a respectful distance tended to survive, reproduce, and pass on whatever behavioral predispositions governed that caution. This is natural selection operating on predator behavior rather than prey behavior. And its outcome is exactly what we observe: a deep, heritable wariness of humans embedded in the behavioral repertoire of large predators across diverse species, calibrated to the level of danger humans have historically represented in each region. The clearest evidence for this mechanism is what happens when human hunting pressure is removed. Islands and isolated ecosystems where humans arrived late, or arrived and then left, provide near-perfect natural experiments in predator behavior without long-term human context. The results are consistently dramatic. The Galapagos Islands are perhaps the most famous example. The animals there, marine iguanas, sea lions, blue-footed boobies, various finches, hawks, evolved in the absence of mammalian predators and with minimal human contact until European arrival in the 16th century. The result is animals so indifferent to human presence that early naturalists, including Charles Darwin, noted they could walk directly up to them, pick them up, and the animals would show no fear response whatsoever. Darwin famously pushed a hawk off a branch with his hand because it refused to move. The hawk had no learned framework for interpreting a human as a threat, because no human had ever threatened its ancestors. Antarctic wildlife shows the same pattern. Penguins, elephant seals, and various seabirds that evolved without terrestrial predators and with minimal human contact treat approaching humans with curiosity or mild annoyance rather than fear. A penguin that has never experienced human predation will walk directly up to a researcher's boot and investigate it. There is no fear there because there is no experiential or ancestral basis for fear. Now contrast this with predators in regions where humans have been hunting for hundreds of thousands of years. African large carnivores, lions, leopards, hyenas, wild dogs, consistently show avoidance of humans that has been documented and studied. Asian tigers in areas with long human presence behave very differently from tiger populations that colonized areas of human absence more recently. The pattern is geographically consistent. Long human presence equals strong predator avoidance. Short or absent human presence equals little to no avoidance. The mechanism writing this pattern is brutal and clear. The fearless ones died. Their cautious relatives lived. Time did the rest, but inherited behavioral tendency is only part of the picture. Individual learning and the transmission of learned behavior through social groups amplifies the effect dramatically. Lions are social animals with complex family structures. Knowledge about threats, what to avoid, what constitutes danger, which prey is worth pursuing and which carries unexpected risk, is transmitted between individuals within a pride and between generations as cubs learn from adults. A single bad encounter between a human and a lion can alter the behavior of the entire pride for years. Research on lion populations in various African ecosystems has documented how prides that have experienced human-caused mortality develop dramatically increased avoidance of human-associated cues, voices, lights, vehicle sounds, compared to prides with no such history. This social learning creates a cultural layer of predator behavior that transmits information faster than genetic inheritance could manage. Within a single generation, a whole population of predators can update their threat assessment of humans based on a handful of representative experiences. The evolutionary baseline establishes a general wariness. Social learning sharpens and maintains it with current local information. By the way, if you want to go even deeper into the secret lives of ancient humans, I just launched a full course called The Secret Lives of Ancient Humans. 10 modules, 3+ hours of content covering everything we never talk about on YouTube. What they feared, how they communicated, what hunted them, and much more. Plus an exclusive PDF guide included. Link in the description. See you inside. Wolves demonstrate this with particular clarity. In regions where wolves were heavily hunted for centuries and then given legal protection, the reintroduced or recovering wolf populations retain extreme wariness of humans despite having no personal experience of being hunted. The behavioral caution outlasted the hunting pressure, apparently encoded in the social transmission of threat information even in the absence of ongoing threat. Wolves that have never seen a trap maintain trap wariness behaviors. The cultural memory of danger persists. Here's where the story gets philosophically interesting. Humans are not just dangerous as physical threats, we are dangerous in ways that no other predator has evolved to manage. Most predator-prey dynamics operate within a relatively bounded set of rules. Prey has a certain speed, a certain turning radius, a certain level of environmental awareness. Predator has certain chase mechanics, certain ambush tactics, certain cooperation strategies. The system reaches an equilibrium. Predators take some prey. Prey evolves evasive behaviors. Predators evolve pursuit capabilities in response. The whole arms race grinds along across geological time. Humans broke the rulebook. The human capacity for long-distance persistence hunting, chasing prey at moderate speeds over distances of 10 to 30 kilometers until the prey, which cannot pant efficiently while galloping, overheats and collapses, meant that flight responses that worked against every other predator didn't reliably work against humans. A cheetah sprint can be escaped with sufficient distance. A human trot cannot, given enough time and enough terrain. Projectile weapons extended the threat range beyond anything evolutionary biology had prepared predators for. An ambush predator calibrates safe distance from threats based on the reach of claws and teeth. No animal in natural history throws things with enough accuracy and force to be lethal at 60 meters before humans, so no animal evolved a threat distance calibration for that range. Early humans hunting with spears were a genuinely novel predatory technology, operating outside the parameters within which prey animals had developed their defensive behaviors. The ability to set fire to landscapes, to construct traps and snares, to work cooperatively in organized groups with coordinated strategies, to remember individual animals, and pursue them with deliberate campaigns over days. Each of these represented a new kind of threat that had no prior analog in the evolutionary experience of most species. Predators couldn't evolve specific countermeasures fast enough. The best available strategy was a generalized, heightened caution that treated humans as an unknown and dangerous variable to be avoided by default. The megafaunal extinction events that coincided with human arrival in various parts of the world are, in this context, deeply relevant evidence. When modern humans arrived in Australia roughly 65,000 years ago, they encountered a continent full of megafauna, enormous wombat-like creatures, giant kangaroos, 3-meter-tall flightless birds, large predatory lizards, that had evolved in the absence of human hunters. These animals had no learned fear of humans, no inherited behavioral caution, no social knowledge of what humans represented. They were, in the Galapagos sense, entirely naive to the threat. Within a relatively short geological window of human arrival in Australia, the vast majority of the megafauna were extinct. The same pattern, megafaunal collapse following human arrival, appears in the Americas when humans reached them roughly 15,000 years ago, eliminating mammoths, mastodons, ground sloths, horses, camels, and dozens of other large-bodied species within a few thousand years. New Zealand, when Polynesian settlers arrived roughly 700 years ago, lost its moa, enormous flightless birds, and the Haast's eagle that had evolved to hunt them, both within a few centuries of human contact. The pattern is staggeringly consistent. Animals with no prior exposure to human hunters, and therefore no fear of humans, disappeared rapidly upon contact. animals that co-evolved with human hunters in Africa and parts of Eurasia, having accumulated thousands of generations of behavioral wariness, survived in much higher proportions. This is the selection pressure made visible at continental scale. The naive ones died. The fearful ones lived. Africa's large mammals survived the human hunting era at higher rates than every other continent's megafauna, precisely because they co-evolved with hunting hominins over millions of years, accumulating the avoidance behaviors and threat responses that kept them alive. The mammoth had no such history when the first humans walked into its range in Siberia. It paid the price immediately. There is a fascinating secondary mechanism at work that deserves its own attention: chemical and acoustic signaling. Predators do not rely solely on visual information to assess threat. Smell and sound carry enormous volumes of threat-relevant data, and human sensory signatures are, from a wildlife perspective, extremely distinctive. Human scent is, by animal standards, highly conspicuous. We sweat continuously through eccrine glands distributed across our entire body, a cooling system unique to humans among primates and unusually dramatic among mammals generally. This produces a persistent, powerful, highly distinctive olfactory signature that animals can detect at significant distances. Many large predators and prey animals respond to human scent with alarm or avoidance behaviors, even in the complete absence of any visual contact. Research on predator response to various olfactory stimuli has found that many large carnivores, pumas, lions, wolves, bears, show stronger and more persistent fear responses to human scent than to the scent of their natural predators or direct competitors. Pumas in a California study avoided areas that had been marked with human voices for weeks after the acoustic stimulus was removed. The behavioral footprint of human presence, in olfactory and acoustic terms, persists long after the physical presence has ended. This means the deterrence radius of a human is substantially larger than the human's physical location. A hunter moving through a landscape is leaving a trail of olfactory information that tells every animal downwind: something dangerous passed through here recently. The behavioral space that humans occupy in any ecosystem is much larger than their bodies suggest. The role of fire deserves particular mention in this context, because fire is one of the oldest human deterrents and one of the most effective. Every large predator that evolved alongside fire-using hominins learned to associate human presence with fire and to associate fire with danger. Fire at a campsite is not just warmth. It is a multisensory human signature, broadcasting presence to everything within a wide radius. The smell of wood smoke, the visual signature of flame and darkness, the acoustic signature of a human fire, crackling, voices, occasional metallic sounds, together create a threat complex that most large predators have learned to give wide berth. Archaeological evidence suggests that controlled fire use by hominins dates back at least 1,000,000 years. That is 1,000,000 years of large predators learning, through painful encounters and passed down behavioral knowledge, that fire means humans, and humans near fire are particularly dangerous. The fire itself is not a threat to a large lion in the way a weapon is, but fire is a reliable proxy for human presence and human readiness, and that association is enough. Modern accounts from people who sleep outdoors in predator territory consistently note that a maintained fire dramatically reduces predator approach behavior overnight. Researchers in field camps in Africa, Alaska, and other predator-dense environments routinely use fire as a first-line deterrent. The behavior it exploits is ancient, deep, and reliable. A behavioral legacy written by 1,000,000 years of association. Here's something that reframes the whole picture in a way that tends to stick. Humans are not just one of the many threats in an ecosystem. In most ecosystems where we are present, we are what ecologists call an apex superpredator, a predator that sits outside the normal rules of predator-prey equilibrium. Normal apex predators, lions, tigers, wolves, killer whales, kill at rates roughly balanced by the reproductive capacity of their prey and the competitive dynamics of their peers. They are integrated into the ecosystem in a way that reflects millions of years of co-evolutionary adjustment. They take what they need, leave what they don't, and the whole system maintains a rough dynamic equilibrium. Humans kill at rates that bear no relationship to immediate subsistence need and are not constrained by physical capacity in the usual way. We hunt with technology that scales independently of our bodies. We can eliminate entire populations of animals from a region in a time frame that evolutionary processes cannot respond to. And we have, repeatedly throughout our history, done exactly that. The predation rate of human hunters on large prey species is, in documented cases, orders of magnitude higher than that of other apex predators. Studies comparing human and non-human predator impacts on prey populations consistently find humans operating at a qualitatively different level of intensity. From an ecological perspective, humans are not a normal predator. We are a disruption event that happens to be continuous. Animals that have spent sufficient generations near human populations have, through the selection mechanism described throughout this exploration, internalized this. The behavioral avoidance of humans seen in experienced wildlife populations isn't calibrated to our physical appearance or our individual threat. It's calibrated to our historical record as a collective predatory force. And that record is, from the perspective of any large animal that has encountered it, terrifying. The modern paradox in all of this is striking and worth sitting with. In most of the world today, humans are not hunting large predators. Conservation efforts in many regions have actively protected carnivore populations for decades. The hunting pressure that wrote the behavioral avoidance into these animals' repertoires has, in protected areas, been largely removed. And yet the avoidance persists because the evolutionary and cultural memory of danger is not so quickly erased. What's more, human activity has extended its deterrent footprint through entirely non-hunting mechanisms. Roads, vehicles, artificial light, acoustic noise from development, these human signatures have been found to deter large predators from territories and time periods that the physical human presence doesn't actually threaten. Pumas in suburban California have been documented shifting their activity almost entirely to the hours between midnight and 5 a.m. to avoid the temporal window of human activity, even though the humans in those areas aren't hunting them. The deterrence has become ambient. The signal of human presence, smell, sound, light, the acoustic profile of civilization is so consistently associated with danger in predator behavioral memory that it deters even where no individual threat exists. Humans have, accidentally, created a civilization-scale predator deterrent that operates continuously, without effort, based entirely on accumulated historical reputation. We are the predator that predators avoid not because of what we are doing right now, but because of what we have done across the entire span of human history. Zoom out to the widest possible view, and what emerges is something almost philosophical. The human position in the animal kingdom is genuinely anomalous. We are simultaneously among the physically least impressive large mammals on the planet and the most feared animal in nearly every ecosystem we inhabit. The gap between our intrinsic physical capabilities and the behavioral response we elicit from other species is wider than for any other creature alive. This gap was created by something that no other species has deployed at the same scale: the cumulative effect of cultural and technological intelligence applied to the problem of survival over geological time. The lion's fear of humans isn't responding to the specific human in front of it. It's responding to a ghost. The accumulated, inherited, culturally transmitted memory of what humans have done to lions, and their relatives, and everything else that got in their way, across hundreds of thousands of years. We built that reputation one encounter at a time. Across every continent we colonized, every megafauna we removed, every predator that learned too late what coordinated, tool-wielding, fire-using, relentlessly persistent ape-descended hunters represented, the reputation accumulated. The lion at the watering hole, glancing at the tourists and looking away, is not failing to perceive a threat. It is making a sophisticated risk assessment, informed by evolutionary inheritance, and possibly social learning that says, in this context, with these variables, These particular humans are probably not the kind of humans that have historically been dangerous. It's reading the situation correctly, as it turns out. Those humans are taking photographs. But somewhere in the architecture of that lion's nervous system, the full weight of human history is encoded as caution. The dismissiveness is a performance of confidence resting on a foundation of very deep, very old, very earned respect. The whole animal kingdom learned what we were. It just took the lessons differently in different places, at different times, through different mechanisms. And the full accounting of those lessons is written not in any book, but in the behavior of every creature that sees us coming and quietly decides, based on everything its ancestors survived, to give us room.